Most people think that scaling is just about spending more money on ads, but when we took this coaching business from $1.5 million months to $1.8 million months, all we did was go back to the basics, which is finding a starving crowd and making them an offer so good they can't ignore it. And so in this video, I'm going to break down exactly what we changed in their business to make this transformation happen and how you can apply the same principle to your business right now. So first and foremost, let me show you the state of the ad account before we took them on. So we started working with them as of the month of May. So if I show you the month of April right here, and I'm going to go to campaigns that had delivery right now on Facebook. Let me go to PA as a tag right there. Okay. So if I go into that right now, you can see that first and foremost, there was no, although you see cost per appointment right here and even per application, it wasn't tracked by the conversion API on Go Eye Level. In fact, this was only set up through the browser integration, so it wasn't 100% accurate. And every campaign that was running and that had ever ran on this account was purely optimizing for leads. So they would only ever optimize for leads, and they weren't even segmenting also lead data back to Meta. So meaning any lead, regardless of their qualifications, was sent back to Meta. And honestly, for a business of that scale, if we look into the amount of ad spend that these guys have had in the month of April, which adding everything up, if I recall, it's something like between $200,000 to $300,000 in ad spend for that month. It's a lot of ad spend being pushed to only leads. So one of the first things that we did when coming on with this account is obviously install conversion API tracking for the applications being submitted, for the appointments being scheduled, and also for closes being made. So that can easily be set up on Go Eye Level. By the way, if this is not something that you're familiar with, all you got to do, to be honest, is go to your CRM if you're operating on GHL, like we are personally at the business, as well as we usually are with clients. Then you go to automation. And then what you can do is very simply put, so I'm going to show you how it looks like on our side right here. So say it's for a lead as an example. All you can do is you can trigger any sort of your lead form being submitted as the trigger. And then you go Facebook Conversion API right here. You go funnel event, access token. So you just paste in your access token from Meta directly. And pixel ID, you can just put in your pixel ID and you check right here what event you want to pass down. So as an example, what I could do is I could also go right here and go opportunity, which is exactly what we did with these guys. Opportunity status change. And then I go here, filters. So pipeline or status actually right here, move to status. And then I go as an example 1. So any opportunity that was marked as 1, which therefore that would mean it's a deal closed by my sales team, then I can actually push this to Facebook's conversion API and push this as a purchase event. So I'll just type in purchase event. Now, very key point right here. I personally like to use standard conversion events for the most part for the following reason. First and foremost, when doing this with this conversion API integration, you have to use a standard conversion event. So it's a must. It's not a you could. So there's that to consider. But the second way, it's also Facebook knows what a purchase looks like. It knows what a deal closed looks like, because you're not the only person in the world optimizing for purchases, or you're not the only person in the world optimizing for leads. And so since there are hundreds, if not thousands, of other businesses in your space also optimizing for leads, then that means that Meta kind of has data points as to what a lead looks like. Whereas say you're doing a custom conversion event and you're sending back to Meta something like lead dash like conversion 1, Meta has no clue what this looks like. Like nobody else is sending lead dash conversion 1 to Meta. So it has to learn from scratch with your conversion event, because it's a custom event, what these people are going to look like. So I always like to use standard conversion event. So anyways, long story short, that's what we set up for every major event on this client's account to then start having more transparency. And I'm showing you this right here so you get a general gist of the, cost per metric. Like our cost per lead was nearing an account average of about $60, give or take. And then, you had cost per application, cost per appointment right here, which aren't exactly accurate right there, to say the least. So the thing with this client specifically, and I'll kind of quote good old Hormozy in a second for you, is what got them from 0 to $1 million and then to about 1.5 million a month as a business was the fact that they had a starving crowd. But that's the same exact principle that we use to get them an extra $300K a month with what I'm about to show you in a second. So going back to Hormozy's $100 million offer book, which I was in my honeymoon about 2 weeks ago at the time of recording this video, and I was reading that book again because I wanted to work on an AI agent that could help us refine offers internally for clients or ourselves as a business. And I came across this passage in the book, which I kind of want to bring back with you here on YouTube, which is this. So, to give you some context right here, Hermosi in the book speaks about almost like a pyramid of what's most important for offers. And he's like, the first thing that is like the most important is going to be your market. Like, you could get everything below that wrong, meaning you could have your marketing wrong, and even the offer in itself could be a bad offer. But if you have the right crowd, anything is going to convert with these guys. Like, the worst ads, the worst offer, this market is still going to buy. And so he's like, market is the most important thing that you have to pick before you even make an offer. So if we read kind of my notes or the passages that I highlighted from the book, by the way, little tip. If you're reading books on Kindle, I highly recommend you get the ReadWise extension with your Kindle, because every highlight that you do just gets synced straight to Notion. So super great to keep your notes organized. But that aside, finding the right market, a starving crowd. So to read the passage of the book, you could have the worst hot dogs, terrible prices, and be in a terrible location. But if you're the only hot dog stand in town and the local college football game breaks out, you're going to sell out. That's the value of a starving crowd. At the end of the day, if there's tons of demand for a solution, you can be a mediocre at business, have a terrible offer, and have no ability to persuade people, aka very bad marketing, and you can still make money. So there is a market in desperate need of your abilities. You need to find it. And when you do, you'll capitalize, all the while wondering what took you so long. So don't be so romantic about your audience. Serve the people who can pay you what you're worth. Remember that, because I'll get back to this in a second. And remember that picking a market, like anything, is always our choice. So choose wisely. Now, that aside, these guys were selling a crypto course in the French-Canadian market. Now, they started in 2023. If you go back to 2023, there was not a single player in the French-Canadian market selling a course on how to invest in crypto. Not at all. And this aligns perfectly with a lesson I've been sharing so much on YouTube lately, which has been, you don't need to just advertise in the US. There's plenty of other non-American markets that are starving crowds because no one has been focusing on those over the last few years, and everyone's been focusing on America as the market to advertise. And so what these guys did was literally they took the playbook of, and I can quote these guys right here, these Zen Masters, some of you might know, very legit info product business in the crypto and decentralized financial space, but mainly in the global kind of English market, if that makes sense. These guys, from what I've been told and what I've seen on Twitter, essentially, because they're doing a little bit of a challenge right now with another guy called Ryan Clogg in the info product space. Apparently, they're doing $3 million a month, and they're racing to get to $5 million a month. So what our client said was like, look, this playbook works. It's a proven playbook. It works in the US. Why don't we just do it in the French-Canadian market? And that's what they went to market with. So no competition, no one selling the same offer as them, taking an offer that works well in the US market, bringing it in a non-American market. And that's pretty much what got them from 0 to a million to even 1.5 million a month. Now, that's the value of a starving crowd. But what happened and what I kind of want to share here is they started going down. So before we ended up working together, you can kind of see it in the curve right here. As the year started, they started the year very strong at like 1.4 in new revenue added for that month, about almost $1 million in cash collected. So of course, like it compounds, right? Every month, this means that there's more money being made. But this was truly like their first really big month was January 2025. And so you can kind of see right here the curve really going down as the year progressed. And so they came to us here in that dip in April. And you can kind of see that everything started going back up as of April onwards. And so I want to break down to you what it is that we did to turn this business around, because it was starting to get a little tired, if that makes sense. So they fed a starving market with, and no diss to them, but like, did they have the best funnel? No, they had a 4% opt-in rate on their funnel. So it's not crazy good. Did they have the best ads? Well, in fact, one of the reasons they came to us, they weren't uploading creatives consistently. So they were working with an English agency that were sending them scripts in English. They had to translate in French and then shoot internally. So they lost part of localization of that market. And the second thing also was that this agency was producing maybe one script a week, give or take. So our client was like, yo, we always have to like put pressure on these guys. Like they're not testing enough creatives. And the worst part of that is if I kind of show you right here in terms of amounts spent in the month of April, Like the ads that were getting them the most results overall, like if we kind of combine this right here, those a lot of the spend, a very significant portion, in fact, of the ad account's ad spend was allocated to campaigns that our client was running by themselves before hiring that agency and had already been running for months. So this agency was like struggling to create campaigns that were doing as good as our client's campaign. So if you look, in terms of blended cost, like everything kind of started to creep up. So one of the questions I kind of asked our client was like, look, these guys, they should have literally like they had one testing campaign that they added to the account. They should have started to move more spend towards this testing campaign because at the end of the day, I'm like, why, cost per appointment was starting to look way better on this campaign than theirs. For some reason, they didn't. Like they were, second thing that our client told us about this agency, or like they're afraid to scale. Like we're telling them like, yo, move spend to your campaign, start scaling this. And like they weren't really doing it. So lack proactiveness, not enough script, and also no overall like direct offer insights and direction. So one of the things that we did, and one of the insights that we got is we asked our client, it was like, okay, well, who exactly is buying from you? And they're like, well, right now we're getting a lot of like late 20s, early 30s, mainly men buying. And honestly, it kind of made sense because if I show you any ad that they've got running and I, do a little preview of this ad right here, well, who's in the ad? That's our client right here. He himself is like late 20s, early 30s. So he's attracting some of himself, but they were also getting, and this is where it was kind of interesting. Our client was like, well, we're getting some slightly older folks, like people who are either retired or like pre-retired. So he's like 50s plus, which have a lot more disposable income. And he's like, we kind of want to go more after these guys because going back to this right here, you have to pick a market that, yes, is a starving crowd, but also can afford you. And if I go down into my notes from $100 million offer, you have right here purchasing power. Your audience needs to be able to afford the service you're charging them for, or the product in this case. Make sure your targets have the money or access the amount of money needed to buy your service at the price you require to make it worth your time. So we're talking almost a $6,000 product, right? Like a coaching program that we're selling to these people with a back-end ascension offer. And it was like, well, the younger crowd, sure, is wanting to get into crypto, but like, one, they need the $5,000 to $6,000 to invest into the program. Two, they also need additional amounts of money to invest into crypto. So it's like at best, this crowd would need bare minimum 10 grand in order to invest into the crypto market. So someone who's late 20s, early 30s, could they dispose of 10K? Maybe, but it's not like they're going to care a lot more about that 10 grand than the slightly older market would. And so we're like, okay, well, that's interesting. So one of our first insights, and this is something as old as time, since their crowd was mainly men, I was like, let's just go with good-looking woman, good-looking young woman, because I've always, and this is just a trick as old as time, I've always seen young women working amazingly well for a majoritively like men market, especially like anything that it helps somebody improve wealth. It's like, it just performs amazingly well. So here, if I filter any ad set that contains UGC, and so I go right here, those are all like our campaigns. One of the things that we did right here, and I'll just go maximum because I think this was in May that we started those, and I'll filter by ad spend. Perfect. Well, we introduced UGC ads where we ended up hiring good-looking women. Like as simple as that. We went to find good-looking women and we're like, put them in front of the camera instead of our client and see how costs are going to behave. And take a look at this, right? Campaigns I showed you earlier, like at scale, and this is not campaigns, right? This is individual ads we're talking about because I follow a DCT method where I do 3 variations of a same ad. So we have individual ads spending 20 grand. So individual ads spending 20 grand and getting a $27 cost per lead, which compared to what you saw before, again, cost per lead was like 50, 60, even close to 70 in some cases. And our cost per appointment was creeping up into the 300s before. Now we're talking $174 for a cost per appointment with $24 cost per application. You can ignore cost per purchase right here because the sales cycle is usually longer than 7 days. So not all attributions are coming back to Meta. But already they're a very positive one. Like much lower cost per lead, much better cost per appointment. And you can see this in their dashboard right here. Like already in May and June, we're starting to get more calls right here. And if you look into, money made right here, May was already a better month than April. And the good thing is that in May, we spent less than we did in April. So that was also great. But from that learning, one thing that ended up becoming clear to us is the following. And so I took a couple screenshots right here to help me kind of guide you through this video. And so to show you some of the, woman ads that we had right there, they look like these, right? So again, you could assume like slightly good looking woman right here, which of course, performs well for our audience. You can literally see the reactions on those ads was like also much more positive on those. Now, something very interesting is, and I'm going to make this a little bigger so you can actually see this right here. So when you break down the results on these ads, what we started noticing is like, half of her ad spend right now is being allocated, of course, to women. Because, I mean, Meta probably looks at this and is like, well, this is a woman in the ad. Let me start showing those ads to women. And so now we're noticing an uptick in women going through the funnel from doing this. This wasn't necessarily the intent, but it kind of happened as a byproduct of us having women in the ads. So like, okay. Now, funnily enough, by the way, but peak this hook rate. Our hook rate was like amazing on those creatives, like 85% in some cases, which is just crazy right here. So that being said, when you look into this, it's like female, half of the ad spend. Okay. Then you start looking into this. Cost per lead, lower on women. $23 instead of $27 for male. $27 per male was already a massive win, but $23 is like insane. Cost per appointment, slightly higher for women, but we're like, okay. Now, let's take a look at the age. Same thing here, a very significant portion. So if you look into this right here in terms of our amount spent, like more than half of our campaign's ad spend is going towards a crowd, which is 35 years old and up. And the creators that we have in those ads are like definitely below 35. They're like 25 to 30. So we're like, okay, we're having an older market, definitely interested in what we have to offer. They're opting in, they're booking appointments, they're interested. And in the back end, what we're getting as feedback from the closers and setters from our client is like, yo, this crowd, this older crowd has more disposable income. So try to go more after these guys. And this is where the idea came, going back to the starving crowd. Was there another starving crowd on the market that we were seeing the birth of right now in the strategy? And yes, there was. What we've realized is looking into the market and our competitors, no one in the French-Canadian market was advertising crypto for women. No one was doing it at all. There was not a single person branding themselves as crypto by woman for woman. So we sat down with our client and we're like, hey, look, since you want to attract a slightly older market, and we know that women are starting to perform really well from our initial test here with UGC, do you know of a woman who can be used as an authoritative figure of the business? And I paired to that the insights that I had from another client of ours, which isn't also advertising a real estate as like biz op, if you want. When these offers use a slightly older person, they perform better. And it kind of seems like people just trust the older crowd more. We've seen so many young guys and gurus just like sell us some like random shit. People want like a trusted figure, especially when it comes to their money. So our client was like, yeah, you know what? As a matter of fact, we have one of our CSMs, one of our coaches. She used to be one of our students. She's in her 50s. She's like great in front of the camera. She's not too far from our offices. We could get her to come down and like shoot some ads with us. Like she'd totally be down. We're like, perfect, let's do it. So I sat with my copywriter. We scripted ads made by women for women. And I told our client, right now what we need to do is take our best performing funnel and adapt that funnel, like change the VSL, re-record it, and even change the front end to be congruent with by women for women. And take a look at this. This is our best performing funnel for that client up until now. And the opt-in rate is about 4 to 5% once again. So not necessarily the greatest opt-in rate. Right here, same exact funnel. Like you can see, no difference in the headline. The only difference is the image right here. So now you might be saying, how is that going to impact opt-in rate? Almost an 18% opt-in rate on a funnel like this one, which is insane. And I'll show you the stats in a second. And the VSL was re-recorded also with the woman. And when you go back now, to Meta, take a look at this brand new campaign of ours. So I'm going to go active ads right now. I'm going to go last 30 days. Let me just go right here. Perfect. This campaign right here. This is our highest spending campaign as of right now. First of all, and I forgot to say this earlier, by the way, you probably just seen this right here. We're now optimizing for schedules, okay? Old agency used to optimize for leads. Pro tip, just optimize for schedules if you have enough volume. Like you're going to get more intentful people in your funnel anyways. But going back to this right here, take a look at this. $4,200 in daily ad spend on this one campaign. $13 cost per lead. Remember earlier, old agency was at almost $60 to $70 cost per lead. $13 cost per lead. So we slashed the cost per lead by like 5 times right here. Now our cost per appointment, remember, it used to be $300, $70 on this campaign right here. So also a dramatic decrease in our cost per lead. About a 4 times decrease in our cost per appointment. Sorry on this one. And again, ignore our CAC right here because it's not 100% accurate on there. What really changed on this campaign? I mean, our hook rate is through the roof, 71% average at like $30,000 in ad spend, which is just insane right here. And if I show you right now our opt-in, so let's just go opt-in percentage, which we're just going to go leads divided by landing page views. Take a look at this. So 8% last 30 days with some of the changes made on our evergreen campaigns, which are more like the regular man angle, 17.8% on this woman campaign. So really the overall learning that I have for you right here, and if we go back right there, like last month in July, they ended the month at like 1.1 million in new revenue sold, which if you look like this is the second best month of the year. But if I open up Slack, our client, texted us on Slack literally yesterday at the time recording this video at like 4 p.m. He's like, hey, biggest month ever for the business this month. 2 sales away from breaking $1.75 million. And if I now show you his account on Facebook, he just posted about it right now with our client right here. So those are the 2 business partners, $1.8 million month right there that he ended at for the month. So broke our biggest month ever. Just had a call with the client yesterday. And we can attribute this uptick in revenue to you expanding into a brand new market. So it's like the lesson here is market truly is at the top of the pyramid. And if you can just open up a whole new market, you will definitely increase your sales. And this is just the beginning. This is like month 1 of us figuring out this whole new starving crowd. So 300 grand in extra revenue, that equates to this business right now over 12 months, it's $3.6 million in additional revenue that we just added to these guys, which it's an info product / coaching business, insanely profitable in the way in which they're running things. And so that being said, we're talking 7 figures in added profit at the end of the year, just by finding another starving crowd. If you want to figure out how we're implementing AI to help us script more ads, creates more congruence between sales teams, funnels, ads, and the overall offer, check out the link down below to join my ad engine inner circle, where we break down our entire AI ad engine process for you in there. That helps us get results like these for our info product coaching and service-based businesses clients. I'm going to see you in the next video. Have an amazing day. Peace out.